Hello friends, welcome to my online class. My name is Pranav Shukla and today we are going for 10th standard NCERT English. Our today's concern is a chapter from supplementary reader, namely Footprints Without Feet, and coincidentally the name of the chapter is also Footprints Without Feet. That is chapter number 5. It is the second part. So let's discuss or recall the first part. Story is about a scientist named Griffin. He had been discovering ways with which he could make a man invisible and finally swallowed certain drugs which really made him invisible. He was first noticed by two boys in staircase of a house where they could just see his footsteps and started following it. They follow it until the footsteps were fainter and could not be seen. First, he's feeling cold and enters a mall or a shop where he got some warmth, wore some clothes and ate something and slept very soundly. But he could not actually wake up in the right time. So he wakes up very late in the morning. An assistant came and he was chased. So he again had to become invisible. So he just removed his clothes one by one, and while just running away, he also robbed the shopkeeper, hurt him, and went away. He then, just to escape from the police and the people, decided to go to a very small village, namely Iping. So, but before that, he had gone to the stock company of the theater and he would get some props and covered completely himself using bandages on the face and dark glasses and full false nose and hat covering himself. He also hits the shopkeeper then and steals his money, robs him. So London was too crowded, so he decided to get away from London and took shelter in an inn in the village, namely Iping. So here is the first part that we already discussed. Now I bring you the textbook for the next and the last part. It was found very strange by the owner of the inn at that time of the year when inn was not actually rented by anyone because hardly people go to the outing in that cold season. So it was very strange, found by the strangers, by the owners of the inn. Now let's see what happens. Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to the village of Iping where he booked 2 rooms at the local inn. The arrival of stranger at an inn in winter was in any case very unusual event. So they found it very strange. A stranger of such uncommon appearance set all the tongues wagging. Is an idiom basically. Tongues wagging means people are talking a lot about something here. Something means here about the stranger and his arrival. Very odd one. Mrs. Hall, the landlord's wife, the owner of the inn, made every effort to be friendly. She was curious to know who the stranger was. But Griffin had no desire to talk and told her, "My reason for coming to Iping is a desire for solitude." He wanted some loneliness. He was doing some research. That's what he told them. "I do not wish to be disturbed in my work." He wanted to remain alone and no one should actually get into his room or disturb him so that he could hide himself. Besides, an accident has affected my face. So that temporarily eradicated the doubts of the lady. But see what happens. Friends, just for kind information, the story is too long and some anthologized parts are given over there. So it comes in various versions and various details in various books. So you can go for this story in some other book in a different way. Okay, let's go further. Satisfied that her guest was an eccentric, strange scientist, and in view of the fact that she suppressed her curiosity and subsided her doubts because she got money in advance. So money kept her mouth shut, and so was her curiosity. That he had paid her in advance, Mrs. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habits. His stranger's habits were really strange. Temperament was very high. He was very irritable, but that was all excused because she got money in advance. But the stolen money did not last. This scientist was using the money stolen from the shopkeeper and paid in advance, but that money did not last very long. The days passed by, and his money and whatever the payment had been done, that was over now. So now he had to pay for the further stay. So that payment was exhausted. So now what he had done, let's see that. And presently Griffin had to admit that he had no more ready cash. So he was not going to get money from anywhere, but he pretended. He falsely showed that, however, he was expecting a check to arrive at any moment. But by the time the check comes, that was totally fake one. Shortly afterwards, a curious episode occurred. Very early in the morning, what episode? Something had happened very different, very strange in the town, in the village. And later people did not doubt upon it. They were not suspicious, but later their suspicion arose, and they related all this happening with that arrival of the stranger. And this is how he would be captured. See, very early in the morning, a clergyman, priest, man of the church, and his wife were awakened by noises in the study, in their room, in their house, creeping downstairs, just to check what's happening in the house. They very quietly moving downstairs. They heard the noise from downstairs. They heard the chink of money, khan-khanat, the ringing light sound of coins being taken from the clergyman's desk. Somebody was sneakingly taking the money out of his desk without making any noise, and with a poker grasped firmly in his hand. The clergyman, poker means something that is a rod used to stir the fire inside the grate, the fireplace. So he had held that poker just to attack if need rises in case. The clergyman flung open the door and he immediately shouted, "Surrender!" He made the man alert and cautious against the clergyman. But to his amazement, he realized that room appeared to be empty. There was no one inside. He and his wife looked under the desk, behind the curtains, and even up the chimney. Noise was sure that came. And they had seen somebody has taken away the money from the desk, coins, but there was no one found over there. They even had checked the hidden places. There wasn't a sign of anyone. Yet the desk had been opened and the housekeeping money was missing. They were surprised. Extraordinary affair. The clergyman kept saying for the rest of the full day. He just kept saying to the people what had happened to him. And what had happened to him was completely extraordinary, unprecedented, never happened before. But it was not as extraordinary as the behavior of the Mrs. Hall's furniture a little later that morning. After this curious incident, in the same morning, Mrs. Hall's furniture had something unusual sight over there. What happened? Another incident, the landlord and his wife were up every early and were surprised to see the scientist's door wide open. It was never seen wide open. It was never allowed to be peeped inside. Now they found the opportunity to see inside what's happening. She was quite curious. Usually it was shut and locked. And he was furious if anyone entered this room. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. It was so good opportunity that it should not be missed out. So they peeped round the door, saw nobody, decided to investigate. Let's see what's happening inside. What is he doing inside the room? So they thought in his absence they could see inside the room and can find out what is he doing. But bedclothes were cold, they were not warm, so he had just been waken up quite early, showing that the scientist must have been up for some time, and stranger still, the clothes and bandages, stranger than this, the clothes and bandages that he always wore were lying about the room. Now you can understand, he must have gone to that clergyman's house and robbed money from there, and now he was to pay to this hotel. So for that particular thing he had woken up early, and this reason why his room was open and he might be inside somewhere in the room. All of a sudden Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her, sniffing. A moment later the hat on the bedpost leapt up. All the stuff had been moving with involuntarily, automatically. No one could be seen doing it. So it was done by scientists, but without the knowledge of that lady, and dashed itself into her face. The hat was thrown onto her face. Then the bedroom chair became alive. Chair was lifted up by the scientist but was not seen. Only chair was moving, lifted up. Springing into the air, it charged, attacked straight at her, and straight with the legs, the legs of the chair foremost, targeting the lady. It could be very much hurting and painful. As she and her husband turned away in the terror, they ran away from the place. The extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam. The chair was doing all, actually done by the scientist, but seemed to be done by the chair, and locked the door after. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the stairs in hysterics, in wild, emotional, exaggerated reaction. She was convinced that the room was haunted by spirits, bhoot aviju, and that the stranger had somehow caused this to enter into the furniture, into her furniture. But the stranger was doubted to be a spirit, and he must have entered into the furniture and doing all this stuff. So it was a very ghastly experience for the landlady. My poor mother used to sit in that chair. She moaned, weepingly spoken very lowly. To think it should rise up against me now. It was used by mother, and now mother might have done this, or how could this chair be upon me? It was very close to my heart. The feeling up among the neighbors was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft, that black magic or voodoo or that kind of stuff done by the tantric, and that is called as witchcraft. But witchcraft or not, when the news of the burglary at the clergyman's home became known, the strange scientist was strongly suspected of having had a hand in it. His involvement had been suspected by the people. Suspicion grew even stronger when he suddenly produced some ready cash. The suspicion was stronger when he on the other day was talking about the check to come and didn't have money. Suddenly produced the cash. So that was highly suspected. It was almost confirmed that he had done this, though he had admitted not long before that he had no money. The village constable was secretly sent for. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist who had somehow mysteriously appeared from his empty, now he had removed that clothes and all, and he was suddenly seen in the empty bedroom. So that sudden appearance that again left him very suspicious and afraid. Now she asked, I want to know what you've been doing to my chair upstairs, she demanded. And I want to know how it is you came out of an empty room and how you entered a locked room. So all the doubts had been raised by that landlady, Mrs. Hall. And this is how he's escaping from the people, hurting them, running away from the room. This is the policeman over there in the picture. Behind him, some other people. And this is the landlord and landlady running away from that man. See, the scientist was always quick-tempered. He was easily got angry. Now he became furious. And in anger, he said, you don't understand who and what I am, he shouted. Very well, I will show you. He is now looking revengeful. Suddenly, he threw off bandages, whiskers, all the props had been thrown away. It was going to be invisible, spectacles, and even nose. It took him only a minute to do this. He horrified people in the bar, found themselves staring at a headless man, as you could see only on, in those movies also. Even Mukabla song from Prabhudeva had got the same kind of look in the old version. Mrs. Jaffar, that is the name of the constable, now arrived and was quite surprised to find that he had to arrest a man without a head. But Jaffar was not easily prevented from doing his duty. He did not give up. He still wanted to put some effort. If a magistrate's warrant ordered a person's arrest, he had been given the order, summon or the arrest warrant, then the person had to be arrested. That was, he was quite determined, with or without his head. There followed a remarkable scene as the policeman tried to, capture the man, but the man was escaped. How? So that is a very remarkable scene. It is in detail described in the real piece of writing, but here it is given in a brief, in a very gist form. How it happened, see. There followed a remarkable scene as the policeman tried to get hold of a man who was becoming more and more invisible. He was throwing off more and more clothes. He was covering his body. As he threw off one garment after another, finally a shot flew into the air, and the constable found himself struggling with someone he could not see at all. Some people tried to help him, but found themselves hit by Malab. Now he was not seen, he was invisible. So people tried to capture him, but they got only some fist and blows and kicks and all that. So they were hurt badly, and that seemed to come from and that blows coming from nowhere because the man was invisible. That is again a misadventure done by the scientist. In the end, Jaffar was knocked. He just maybe kicked or pushed Jaffar so badly, so ferociously that he had fallen unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold on to the unseen scientist. There was nervous, excited cries of hold him, but everyone knew that they would not be able to do it. But this was easier said than done. Griffin had shaken himself free, and no one knew where he lay hands on him. Kahan se pakade usko? It was not seen. So this is how he had escaped and had done further more misadventures, but that is in the rest of the part of the story. So here our story ends. It is dealing with the title of the supplementary reader, Footprints Without Feet. That is by H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells is a very big name, so it is a treat to have something from H.G. Wells. I hope you have enjoyed and understood the chapter properly. I'll get you the question answer very soon. Thank you very much, friends.